Welcome to the crypto trading channel. My name is Stu. Bitcoin is seeing a nice little bounce the past couple of days, but is the bottom actually in for Bitcoin? I personally have my doubts, but that doesn't mean there isn't opportunities to be taken either direction in this crazy volatility we've had recently. So I want to basically quickly go over a few levels to watch for on Bitcoin, check out some indicators and so on. So guys, if you do appreciate these market updates, do me a favor, hit that like button, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you are new here. But with that, let's take a real quick look at Bitcoin, starting off zoomed right into the 5-minute chart here, you guys. In yesterday's stream, I was talking about shorting this bearish STUBER fib setup, and overnight managed to hit my 214 fib target after bumping my stop loss to basically chase the 5-minute structure. Basically, eventually, the rest of my position was stopped and locked into some nice profits. And guys, for those of you who are interested in seeing way more examples of basically how I'm looking at market structure in general, some of my trade setups, just like the one I laid out here in advance, strategies, warnings, and so on, be sure to scan the QR code. Let me just pull that up for you guys here to gain access to my Telegram, which will now, due to our exclusive partnership, also get you access to Prime automation for unlimited algo trading bots. And very exciting there, guys. And to top it all off for you guys, Blowfin is also celebrating this partnership by giving the special promotion for new signups under us, the crypto trading channel. So if this amazing free deal interests you, be sure to scan the QR code, get in there, you guys. But yeah, like I said, looking at Bitcoin, this is the fib that I had pulled up on yesterday's stream. So we almost ended up hitting my 115, just missed my last entry there, but did overnight end up getting to my target, which was what was it? I believe it was 68,433 or 68,333. I think it was 433. So basically just got down there by about $100 and hit that. And after that, like I said, bumped my stop loss because we had this low, lower low, confirmed lower high. And when we ended up breaking that, basically that's where I locked in the rest of my profits. So what can we expect now? You know, there is another setup that I'm looking at. I did mention this in the Telegram. I do have my concerns with it. It's not absolutely perfect, but just looking at this swing. So basically we ended up losing some structure here, right? Because we had obviously this high, this higher high, lowest point between the two here. And we ended up breaking that. So unfortunately, well, as it stands, I mean, that's a bearish signal, but I don't know for sure if this bearish setup is going to play out, right? I would like to basically pull my fib from my pivotal point here and look for something like this. However, something to consider here, you guys, is the reason why I say this isn't exactly a perfect STUBER fib setup is because, yes, on this microstructure, on this uptrend that we had here, we did lose that structure. However, if we zoom out a little bit, here's where my word of warning comes in, is actually this was our high and this was our next higher high. So the lower or the higher low is actually still way down here. The confirmed higher low basically at about 67.3K. So we never did lose that. If we did lose that level, I would feel way more confident about pulling a fib from this level. But you know what? There's a potential scalp there. You just have to, obviously, just like any setup, the more confluence you have or the more risk you have, that's where you need to adjust your position sizing, right? So obviously, in a case like this, there's a little added risk factor. So I would be keeping my position a little bit smaller if we do get that retest of resistance up a little higher, basically from about 71.4 up to about 72.8. I'm just going to call it 73K. Leaving a little bit of extra wiggle room, basically. So if we do end up breaking through that level, if the bulls are able to smash through 73K, that's where I want to zoom out and look back at the 4-hour chart. I mentioned some of these levels yesterday, and you can see I have actually just kind of mapped out where my support boxes are, where my resistance boxes are. And just like I mentioned yesterday, the reason for these pockets of resistance basically is because this is where we had our low and this was our lower low on the trend. As far as the 4-hour trend goes, That is the most micro structure that I can find here on the immediate downtrend, right? And that would then give us this confirmed lower high on the trend, which is right around 77K. So that's why I have this red line here. And then, of course, if I do a typical STUBER fib pull from that structure, that's where we get this purple box is my 786 to the 886. And my red box here is basically my swing fail pocket. So yeah, basically, like I said, if we end up breaking through that 5-minute structure and invalidating that 5-minute bearish setup, then that's where we zoom out and we can take a look at something like this, more so the midterm, right? So looking at the 4-hour here, and that's kind of how I'd be looking at my resistance. Same with the opposite end of things. Now, I actually have less confidence in these support boxes. I'm sure you guys can tell exactly why those boxes are there at that point, basically pulling a fib something like this. So you can see that the purple box right around my 786, 886 fib pocket, and the green box is my bullish swing fail rather than a bearish one, right? So that's where those support boxes come from. I feel a little bit differently about this one because kind of like what I was talking about with the 5-minute on the bearish side, the fact that there wasn't actually a lower low set or a higher low was not broken. We actually have the opposite on the 4-hour, right? We did not take out this lower high on the trend. So although we got this nice little bounce here, we never actually invalid the midterm structure for me to give us an actual valid STUBER fib. That doesn't mean that we can't find support at these levels. Obviously, on the shorter time frames, they would be valid setups, right? I can guarantee that on the 5-minute, there would have been some lower highs formed in here and we would have broken it and whatever. So when you zoom in, there would be a valid STUBER setup there. So that's kind of why I don't want to rule it out at this point. But just as far as the actual midterm, the 4-hour trend goes, we never did get a structure break yet. So I know a lot of people would say, oh, well, here's our lower high because we got a little reversal here after going a little lower. That's not how I look at structure. Yes, it's, we can say that, yeah, there was a rejection there of some kind, but we never actually took out a lower high on the trend by any means. So it is what it is at this point. The weekly, I was talking about this yesterday as well. The weekly looks like absolute trash to me, to be quite honest. And unfortunately, you guys, looking at this indicator, the 3D trend with chart prime, that is the indicators, same as the prime automation, right? They have their algo bots with our partnership there. We gain access to them through our exclusive partnership. But as far as indicators as well, they have a big slew of indicators as well. And the crypto trading channel members, you do in the description down below have a special promo code to get a 35% discount on those if you want to try those as well. But just looking at this one, I love this 3D trend indicator for looking at basically some sort of a very strong trending indicator, right? Especially when we zoom out to the weekly and we can see how well this indicator has been respected in the past. Generally speaking, when this thing flips orange and flips into resistance, we have entered full-on bear markets. And unfortunately, that is exactly what we have here. Obviously, it does not need to play out the same, but you guys know that I've been talking about this since October, that we could actually be in a bear market. And I was actually talking about the possibilities of that big pullback even before the October 10th crash, right? That's kind of where it confirmed in my head that structure was absolutely destroyed on the long-term trend. But even before that, I was already starting to be a little bit cautious because of the swing fail up here. But basically, moral of the story, I have been quite bearish for several months now. A lot of people celebrating that the bottom is in because we went up for a couple of hours and totally ignoring the fact that we have gone in an aggressive downtrend for the last several months. A lot of people want to hold on to that hopium, and I totally understand. I would love to see this market go to new all-time highs and go parabolic, but I like to trade the charts that we actually have in front of us, not the charts that are make-believe and I hope come to fruition a few months down the road, right? So just looking at this weekly chart, I just don't know how anybody could possibly in their right mind say that the bottom is in. We have obviously, since losing our trend, like I was talking about, right? We had this high, we had a slightly higher high, confirmed higher low. We lost that. Ever since, we have been in a nasty downtrend. And even here, we've had now for, well, we have 2 weekly candle closes below this structure that we formed here, right? We tried to get some sort of a bounce here. We even formed some bullish divergences in the RSI, but we just ended up setting a new low, which means we have then confirmed a new lower high, right? Can you imagine? The Moon Boys are going to be just absolutely ecstatic if we end up getting back up to 98K, claiming that the bear market's over, claiming that we are about to go parabolic, all that sort of stuff. But guys, when we're in a very serious downtrend like this, I'm not saying that that resistance can't break. You know, trends break all the time. But if and when we end up getting that actual rally and end up retesting resistance levels, consider the trend and consider respecting that resistance in a downtrend. Just like in a strong uptrend, I would respect support. Whereas at this point, the fact that we were already in a downtrend when we lost the uptrend, that's why I never gave all too much credit to the support down here. And notice that even going to the bottom of the wick there, you can see that this weekly candle that we just had close, was that just last night? You can see that we ended up closing a candle body way below that structure. So again, just however you want to look at this trend, there is literally nothing suggesting that this has to be a bottom for Bitcoin. And anybody telling you that is either looking for clickbait or they just don't zoom out and look at a chart. I don't know what to tell you, but unfortunately it is what it is. I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news. I'm just trying to look at the charts as a realist, because guys, I don't care which way Bitcoin goes. It can go up to the moon. It can go down to the abyss. I don't care. I just like the market volatility and I will trade this either direction. So I really don't care, but just looking at it from a realistic point of view based on charts like we do here. And guys, if you do appreciate that, just keeping a level head through the chaos in this market rather than coming up with excuses, do me a favor, hit that like button. And those of you obviously who are actual traders, make sure you are subscribed to this channel, because we're actually looking at charts, not just hanging on to, fairy tales and hopium basically, right? So I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for this trend to start going to the upside again. It's just, it is what it is at this time. Looking at some other altcoins, Solana did catch my eye earlier, also looking a little nasty with the structure here, just because kind of like what I was talking about with Bitcoin, except Solana did actually do it, is the fact that we have broken some structure, right? The fact that we had a high here, higher high here, we had a higher low. We ended up breaking through that higher low. And in that case, that's where we ended up having a beautiful STUBER fib, right? Notice that basically where we got rejected, right around that 886, hit a couple of my targets, even blew past. And here's the thing is we did end up setting a new lower low. So mixed feelings about this. This is where things can get a little bit tricky when I'm talking about STUBER fibs. And yeah, just as I said, sometimes not every trade setup is just as clean as the next. And I do have my concerns about this bearish one. I would love to say that basically we have a low here, we have a lower low here. Therefore, what's the highest point between the two? Right here. So I would love to say that, hey, you know what? If I pull a fib from that confirmed lower high, we are in fact getting a bit of a bearish STUBER fib rejection here. I don't necessarily disagree with that. However, one reason why it's actually a little bit unclear, or rather an unclean setup, is and I know a lot of people are going to say this is microanalyzing, but this is literally the foundation of my own setup, so it is what it is. After setting this low here, this is actually where we set our lower low, and then we set another lower low, which means that this was actually the lower high on the trend, right? That's actually the confirmed lower high there. So the fact that we ended up breaking that, and notice what happens after, we just continue trending to the upside. So yeah, obviously we are at potential resistance, because like I said, pulling from there, honestly, we could even pull right back from the top of the range and look something like that. I would say that's still valid setup, because this is still our pivotal point for Solana on the 5-minute, right? We have not broken that level. So obviously that hasn't changed. And since this hasn't been broken, and now this hasn't been broken, this is now the range that we are in. So far we are seeing a little bit of a rejection around that 786 there. We could end up hitting these targets down here, but like I said, I just have, it's just got some added risk factors just based on how the structure formed, right? Structure is going to form different all the time, different assets, different time frames, just different days. It is going to form different. So unfortunately, this threw a little bit of a curveball into it, from as opposed to just being a very clean Stuber setup. So it is what it is. Again, still respecting resistance for what it is, but not all hope is lost either. Good to see you guys in the chat. Let me know how you guys are doing today. Thumbs up for you guys. Thumbs up for the live streams. Thumbs up for the new partnership. Thumbs up all around, guys. Good to see you here. How are you guys feeling about the market? Do you think this is a dead cat bounce? Do you think we actually have set lows and we are going to go parabolic from here? How is everybody feeling on the market? Taking a look at the long short ratio, you can see that we did get this little bounce as soon as retail started longing, right? That's the thing. As long as retail is willing, or sorry, shorting, when retail is willing to start shorting, especially when they short into a breakout or short into support, that's generally where we see some sort of a bounce. But if we see these guys end up going down, going for a little kiss, something like that, and then shorts start dropping, the retail starts getting FOMO again, because all it really takes is a few hours of green price action and everyone thinks crypto's going to the moon. So as soon as retail starts building those longs again, unfortunately, I think that's where we're going to continue the downtrend. So basically the market makers taking advantage of retail liquidity, right? So yeah, what do we got going on here? So yeah, like I said, I mean, there's a couple different ways Bitcoin could play out. As far as the midterm goes, I know not everybody wants to trade the 5-minute like myself, right? I love trading the 5-minute, but I still very much so keep my eye on the 4-hour chart and even the weekly chart, just to kind of zoom out and keep a level head. But yeah, unfortunately with the 4-hour, we are literally right in the middle of a range. So as far as looking for swing positions, I just don't see anything all that safe right here. More so looking into the shorter time frames and looking for those scalp setups and hoping for one to turn into a runner rather. And I still do have 5% of my position running from 89.9K as well. That short played out absolutely beautifully. And that one as well, guys, was actually shared in the VIP in the Telegram channel when I was taking it. Basically, I mentioned that we ended up hitting my 4-hour resistance, just like the structure that I've been pointing out in this stream and every other stream. You guys notice that here we obviously set a lower low, came back up to my resistance level, and that's where I ended up getting into that short, and it played out absolutely monstrous. You guys ended up, last time I took profits was around 740%. And like I said, I only have about 5% still running at this point. So not a lot, but I still want to hold on to that position because I like to let runners run when I can, but obviously paying myself along the way because not expecting a home run trade every single time. So BTC to 38,888. Honestly, I think that makes so much sense. I'm glad you're not going to attack me about saying that. But just looking at a fib pull, you guys, and I know I've brought up my macro views more so on Sunday streams and stuff like that, but yeah, I think it's absolutely possible that Bitcoin could be targeting around that 40K area, just because I treat market structure the same, whether it's the weekly chart, the 4-hour chart, the hourly, the 5-minute, the 1-minute, I treat market structure the same. And the fact that we have absolutely destroyed this uptrend on the weekly, I see no reason why we wouldn't go retest support of the range. And in this case, the range on a weekly is actually an entire market cycle. Right. So just like previous market cycles where we ended up testing those Stuber fibs, I would not be surprised to basically see the same thing happen. So absolutely a possibility. You know what? I'm glad you just asked that. Thanks, Stu, for your amazing work. Do you usually trade cross or isolated? I will never, ever touch cross leverage. Okay. And guys, that's coming from someone who's a bit of a degenerate trading the lower time frames and stuff. I will absolutely never touch cross leverage. That doesn't matter if I'm using automated trading through algo bots. That doesn't matter if I am trading and keeping a close eye on things for myself. October 10th should open up the eyes of a lot of people, because a lot of people thought that they were safe because their liquidation prices were ridiculously far away and that was impossible to hit those levels. That was a great reminder that with some slippage, absolutely anything is possible. And I like to trade with isolated leverage because then I know the amount of margin on my position. Worst case scenario, that is how much I'm going to lose. Because a lot of people get this wrong and think that a stop loss is worst case scenario. A stop loss is not even close to worst case scenario. Having no stop loss and trading with cross leverage, or even just trading with cross leverage with a stop loss, is very dangerous in my opinion, just because slippage can end up wrecking your entire account. Just taking, hey, we're going to be liquidated, so we're just going to grab money out of your spot holdings, let's say. Right. I just cannot get on board with that. I think it's very irresponsible myself. Sorry for those of you who do use cross leverage. I know a lot of people who do. It just seems so risky to me. Or at least keep your other funds out of your trading account, right? Understand worst case scenario, what can happen. Always plan for worst case scenario. So that's my long-winded rant about cross leverage versus isolated. Yeah, in real life, friends calling you crazy for saying 50K BTC. Can't wait to call them at 40K. Yeah. And obviously it doesn't have to happen, right? But ever since October, I've been talking about the possibility of that happening. And while everybody was telling me I was crazy, honestly, guys, I actually lost followers. I lost subscribers when I shorted 125.2K and mentioned that on a live stream and absolutely nailed the top of this market cycle. And I lost followers because people did not want to hear that. So it just goes to show you how emotional people in this market are and how hard it is for people, because they see the FOMO and the influencers with the big accounts saying, you know, oh, we can't ever have a bear market like that again because BlackRock, all these bigger players, there's more money. Every single market cycle has exponentially larger players in the space. This cycle is no different. You literally need that to keep the same price action. So I just, you know, being able to, even if this doesn't happen, that's the thing, right? I'm not holding a YOLO short saying we have to hit these levels. I'm not saying I'll never take a long again until we hit these levels. It's just looking at it as, hey, if we do hit those levels, I know what I'm doing. I am planning ahead and I will be a buyer at that support level while everyone else says that Bitcoin is dead and never recovering, right? Because like I said, I treat all market structure the same on all time frames. So yeah, exactly. People just want to hear hopium. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. I just wanted to really quickly go over basically a few levels that I'm looking at, a few different potential setups for Bitcoin, and as well, just talking about Solana there. With Bitcoin on the 5-minute, you guys, this is the setup that I laid out here, but there is also a scenario here where we did actually lose. We have this high and a higher high, so therefore our higher low, and we did end up losing that level. So it's possible we're going to go back down and retest support before going higher. But again, it's just a little bit risky because we're not quite at the top of the range. So just has an added risk factor is all. But yeah, I just like to basically respect resistance when I see any sort of bearish structure forming like this. So figured I'd bring that to your attention as well. So guys, I think, as I mentioned, that's about all I wanted to go over today. So one last time, if you appreciate these live streams, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And just a reminder for those of you interested in learning and seeing more examples of some of my favorite trade strategies, how I use fibs and market structure, give more of my thoughts on the market in general, as well as now access to unlimited algo bot trading through our exclusive partnership with Prime Automation, plus this special promo that my partners at Blowfin are also giving new signups. If this is something that interests you, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description down below. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Happy trading. Thank you so much for being here with me once again. Peace out, my friends.